Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Monday, January 23rd. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 222 days. The game against Michigan in 306 days. The Ohio State football team is slowly turning its attention now that the transfer portal is closed, the NFL draft deadline is passed, kind of turning its focus a little bit towards the 2024 recruiting class. And of course, what is the position everyone wants to talk about with the 2024 recruiting class? Same position they want to talk about every year. That is quarterback. Ohio State just lost its quarterback commit for that class, Dylan Raiola. So what happens next? My guest today is Marc Givler. He is one of the recruiting analysts at BuckeyeHuddle.com. He's also wearing a green T-shirt with what looks like a bird on the front of it. I can't imagine why. Mark, what's up with the bird on your shirt there?
Yeah, there was a huge game, I think, for the entire country on Saturday night, being played in Philadelphia, and so America's team is officially in the NFC Championship game. And I do not mean the team that hasn't been to one in 27 years. I mean the Philadelphia Eagles, of course. So that's good. I was going to scold you, Tom, for not telling us how many days it was until since Dallas has been in an NFC Championship game. But I believe we're recording this in the fourth quarter of their latest playoff stumble. So this will age really well if there's a comeback. So.
Yeah, exactly. You want to get that on the record real early because it never comes back to bite you. One thing we've definitely learned on these shows over the years. All right, let's enough pro football talk. Let's talk about the real football, college football, and the future of college football in Columbus at the quarterback position. And I guess we have to sort of start this conversation with Dylan Raiola. He was the number one quarterback in the class of 2024, the number one player overall in the class of 2024, according to some sources. Well, he committed to Ohio State last year and then decommitted. What is the likelihood? Is there any likelihood that there is a reconciliation there and Dylan Raiola ends up back in the Ohio State class of 2024?
No, and when it first happened, we kind of said, hey, let's give it a non-zero, maybe a 5%. They can try and swing this thing back their way. But I'm told Ohio State has pretty much moved on. They're going to start exploring their options, what targets they may like and may have a shot with. And Dylan Raiola has obviously not been in contact with the Ohio State staff recently, and nor they with him. So I think we can probably call this one dead in the water as far as Ohio State and Dylan Raiola go. So now the question will be, where does Ohio State go? There's several options. I'm sure we're going to start talking about them here in a second, but I to kind of set the table, I do expect this to be a fairly exhaustive search. I don't think this is going to be something where they've got their quarterback in a couple weeks committed or anything like that. I think this will be a slower process. I think right now the effort is going to be on getting guys on campus as soon as possible. Obviously, if someone can come up in January or February, great. But I think really the focus will be during spring football, maybe for an unofficial, and then of course you can do officials starting in April. So, I think spring is going to be kind of the really hot time for quarterback recruiting for this staff. And obviously at that point, Corey Dennis and Brian Hartline to some extent now being with his new OC title can get on the road and watch some guys throw in person as well. So there will be plenty of quarterback recruiting coverage, I think, on our website here the next few months.
Yeah, the Ohio State program has been great for stringing that quarterback position along, certainly for the benefit of recruiting reporters and podcasters and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that's the reason. But, C.J. Stroud was a very late addition in 2020. Devin Brown, a pretty late addition in 2022. You had a very late addition this year with Lincoln Keenholz. I guess he would be 2022. Devin Brown would be 2021. These years are
not 22 and 23. Yeah, you had it right.
Oh, 22, 23. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like when the season and the bowl game are different years. Everyone signs in the early signing day. Anyway. You know what I mean. C.J. Stroud, Lincoln Keenholz, Devin Brown. You get the point. Anyway, so let's talk about it. They're not going to get Dylan Raiola, it sounds like. Before they signed Dylan Raiola, or they got the commitment from Dylan Raiola, they had Jadyn Davis as someone who was kind of, kicking the tires with the program, and they were maybe kicking the tires with Jadyn Davis. With Dylan Raiola when he was committed, then that kind of went away. But now it sounds like maybe that the little bit of rekindling of that relationship there with Jadyn Davis. Ohio State's coaches were on the road, talking to folks, I guess, close to him. What are you hearing about Jadyn Davis in Ohio State right now?
Yeah, so for a while there, it looked like Jadyn Davis would be Ohio State's quarterback in the 2024 recruiting class. Dylan Raiola was offered later than Davis, and but he, as things progressed, Raiola sort of took the top spot and ultimately committed earlier. So Ohio State obviously was at the time very thrilled with that, and that sort of killed things with Jadyn Davis. So now things are kind of swinging back in his direction as far as Ohio State's concerned. They sent Ryan Day and Brian Hartline and Corey Dennis down to Charlotte on Friday, met with the coaching staff there at Providence Day. So that was a kind of a symbol or a sign of good faith, or certainly to send a message to the Davis crew that Ohio State's very serious about getting things rekindled there. So, I've had a chance to talk to Jadyn's father briefly, both before the trip on Friday and just briefly again here on Sunday. And I guess first things first, the intel right now is that, despite kind of Michigan and Clemson seemingly separating from the pack here in the last few months, the Davises, they claim that, it's kind of a wide open thing right now, that they're going to listen to any opportunities that may arise. And so it sounds like they were receptive to this. Certainly it's something that probably could have been squashed before it happened. If there was, 0% interest here, they could have, they knew they were coming. They could have said something and said, hey, don't waste your time. So that didn't happen. Now it's interesting because now there's kind of a go-between. You're talking to the coaches now. You can't. It's the time of year where you can go to the school, but you can't talk to the kids. So you're sitting out with the coaching staff, and you're sort of relaying your message to the coaching staff to relay to Jadyn and his family, and you're also kind of, hopefully, if you're Ohio State, you're getting some information from the coaching staff on, hey, what's our chances here? Can we get this thing on the right track? And so I was told here Sunday evening that the Davis family and the Providence State coaching staff has not yet had a chance to really connect and go over the visit yet from Ohio State. I'm told that's going to happen here this evening, on Monday evening. They're going to kind of get up to speed on how everything went with the Ohio State coaches on Friday. But again, the message right now is that Jadyn is uncommitted. He's uncommitted for a reason, that, they've tried to be methodical with this recruiting process. And if he was a lock somewhere, he'd be committed. So in the meantime, he is, going to be receptive to whatever schools are going to throw out there on the table, and any recruiting pitch they're willing to throw out there. So we'll see where it goes. I think it was a step in the right direction, obviously, that this visit took place with the coaching staff there at Providence Day, and with Ohio State kind of showing that strength, I guess, if you will, just sending all those, they didn't just send one guy, they sent the head guy, and they sent, the two primary offensive staff members that Jadyn would be working with. So we'll see. It's a name that I immediately threw out when Dylan Raiola decommitted, and it's got a little more traction maybe than I thought it would by now, but it's still a long way to go.
And, there's one other interesting factor to that, which is one of the schools that he had been linked to pretty closely recently was Michigan. And, this is the time of year when you have coaching staffs undergo, a little turnover here and there. Michigan's coaching staff just underwent some unexpected turnover with Matt Weiss, who was kind of the offensive coordinator there, really oversaw the passing game. He was just terminated on Friday due to what they called computer access crimes. And there's been all sorts of speculation on what exactly constitutes a computer access crime. But from Ohio State's perspective, what does that mean in terms of, that seems like someone who would have been very intimately involved in Jadyn Davis's recruitment if you're the offensive coordinator and sort of passing game quarterback kind of guy. What does this mean potentially for Ohio State? And, does that improve their chances with Jadyn Davis if one of his primary points of contact at Michigan is all of a sudden not at Michigan anymore?
Look, I think it does exactly what Ohio State might need right now, which is, I think it buys some time. I think obviously if you're Jadyn Davis or anyone close to him and you're going through this recruiting process, you're going to now pause and be like, okay, like, can I get some specific, like, what happened here and who is going to replace him? And so I think there are some questions now on Michigan's end that need to be answered for any quarterback they'd be recruiting for that matter in 2024. And so if the rumors, the last couple months that Michigan had kind of maybe pulled ahead and was the favorite, if that's true, you've just created a pause. You've delayed, it's highly unlikely to me that you would see him commit right now. I would think at least, you've bought yourself some time where he's got to see how this plays out a little bit. And maybe that gives Ohio State just that crack in the door that it needs to kind of slip through and continue to rebuild the relationship and maybe even get a visit in the spring. So I think, certainly it's helpful. Will it be enough? I don't know that yet. I think that's too early as we kind of go through this, but it certainly can't hurt things right now as for a school that's trying to get back in with this kid.
All right. And two other names, both kind of ties to the SEC in one way or another that Ohio State has sort of, thrown their hat back in the ring with. One is a current Alabama commit, Julian Sayin. He's out of Carlsbad, California. Ohio State just offered him recently, even though he is currently committed to Alabama. How much smoke do you think there is there, or is that kind of a shoot your shot and maybe something changes down the road kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's a little bit of the latter there, but at the same time, you look at Alabama. They brought in 2 quarterbacks in 2023. The favorite to win that job appears to be Ty Simpson, who's a 2022, so he's only going to be a second-year player. So that job could be solidified for the next 2 or 3 years. You're gonna try and play the numbers game to your advantage here. You're gonna say, look, you're coming in behind 2 quarterbacks. You're starting in 2022, and maybe Ohio State will start at 2022. Who knows? I tend to think they're going to be starting in 2021, but we'll see. But obviously the path to the field is a little less murky at a place like Ohio State for a 2024. And so you're going to play that card, and you're going to play obviously the card where you're about to have your third consecutive first round quarterback here in April. So there's been some communication there. I don't think this kind of came out of left field to the extent that they had never even talked to the kid and all of a sudden they just randomly offered. I think there has been quietly a little bit of communication there just to kind of take the temperature. So again, I in different ways maybe than Davis, because Davis is uncommitted, but in somewhat in the same way, is I think this will take some time to grow the relationship and kind of see where things go. I don't expect even if Ohio State's able to really gain a lot of traction there, I don't suspect like he's going to flip next week or anything like that. I think you're going to have to, I guess, chip away at this and just keep at it for a few months and see if you can get him on campus this offseason. But yeah, there's been some communication and clearly at this point, Davis and Sayin are the 2 guys that they have put the most resources into recently. Does that mean this is going to be the only 2 guys we talk about? Absolutely not. But these are the 2 I think they've identified and that they're really going to say, let's see where we go with these 2 before we decide kind of how far we have to search here.
All right, so that covers the Alabama commit Julian Sayin. Now let's look at the other side of the Iron Bowl. Adrian Posey, he just decommitted from Auburn last week. Is there, is that just kind of a name to just sort of keep in the back of your mind? Does he maybe become a little bit more of a target now that he's decommitted? What's the latest on him?
Yeah, that was obviously when he decommitted. That was the natural thought was to at least, acknowledge that, hey, he camped 2 summers ago to Ohio State. They offered him. He's a guy that I know they liked. He has a really good arm, good size kid. But there hadn't been, when I talked about him last week on the site, there hadn't been any communication yet. There still hasn't been. I'm told probably that there won't be. I think this is probably one that Ohio State doesn't pursue. But you never know. You wait and see how things play out with some of these other guys, or where things are at in terms of maybe getting a visit from some of these other guys before you completely shut the door on anybody. But for now, I'm told not a priority target.
All right, so that covers at least the targets that the target quarterbacks we're looking at right now. Things are obviously subject to change. Something we're going to be following, as I've said on a couple other subjects, as we've talked about recently, that feel like these are going to be a little bit of a drawn out storyline, perhaps. Probably not the last time we're going to be talking 2024 Ohio State quarterback recruiting on this show, but good to kind of have a little bit of a milepost here as you sort of turn the page from the 2023 class to 2024 on where things stand right now. And again, Ohio State has brought in quarterbacks in December multiple times recently, right before early signing day. So this may be something we talk about for most of the 2023 year, but they do eventually tend to bring in a quarterback one way or the other. So we'll keep an eye on that one for you. Tonight, we're also going to be keeping an eye on the women's basketball game, top 10 showdown between the number 2 Buckeyes and Iowa. That game starts at 7 o'clock. The last time I looked at the ticket availability, it looked like the shot is going to be pretty darn full. So that should be a pretty exciting game. Tony Gerderman and I will be there covering that one. One of the bigger games in program history. So that's something to keep an eye on tonight. That will be on TV as well. So if you did not have tickets and you can't get tickets, you can watch it on TV. It is a very fun team, worth checking out. So that will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.